Oh, that's a little loud. Bring that down. Annie, who's my favorite student? A different Annie. Anne Serkey, because she gets everything right. I'm going to try very hard to let you into my warped brain. What I mean by that is I'm going to talk out loud, Lean, how I solve these. So if I was reading this question, I would probably underline the word dropped, and almost right away I would write, okay, I know that. I would look at part A, how high. You know what, Jackson? They're asking me to find this. Brandon, you asked, how do I know when it's a displacement or a distance? You're almost always technically finding a displacement. In fact, I'm making a prediction. You got a negative answer for part A, did you not? Because you're ending up below from where you started. I'm okay with that. We don't in English say a cliff is negative however many meters high, but in physics, our equations are vector-based equations. We're going to get displacements and velocities, not distances and speeds. Hey, I know A because we're in free fall. What is it? I will never tell you that in the question. I will expect you to have that aha moment on your own. Don't start sticking negative 9.8s everywhere. If you're in a car going sideways horizontal, no. But if you're in free fall, negative 9.8. Unless you're on the moon, and I don't think I gave you any questions on the moon on this test. I wanted to. T equals 18.5. I make my list. Dina, you yawned, so I'm picking on you. Which equation has a D, a VI, and A, and a T in it? There is one. Keep going. Plus a half. AT. And I would totally give you full credit, but I would also say you wasted my time. In this case, what's VI? Look up. What's VI? So what's 0 times T? What's VIT? You could skip reading that if you wanted to. In this specific case, you could have just said, I know that D equals a half AT squared. You can put the 0.5 in front. I usually write it that way because honestly, it's less writing. It's going to be negative 9.8 times 18.5, don't forget the squared, divided by 2. I have no idea what the answer is. Negative 9.8 times 18.5 squared divided by 2. Here's what I do know, by the way. Free falling for 18 seconds, that's a long time. This is going to be a high cliff. I noticed the 5 didn't show up. It's one of the things I like about hopefully you've, especially those of you having like a nice 2-line display, you've realized you can backspace and edit and check for errors before you hit enter. In fact, I think almost every single one of you has the ability to do that with one poor, pathetic, sad, notable, unfortunate exception. Oh, sorry. Did you get, wow. Is it that? Okay, I'm going to go to 3 sig figs. I'm going to write negative 1,680. If you said negative 1,677, I'd take that. If you said negative 1,670, if you chopped off instead of rounding off, I would take a half mark off. I'm going to write this. If you left the negative off because it didn't say, tell me the displacement, it said how high, I would have to give you full credit because I was unclear on this question. If this was a multiple choice question, I will not give you negative 1680 and positive 1680 to pick from. I would just commit to once. I won't try and trick you that way. That's cheap. Okay. If you got that right, 2 out of 2. Otherwise, for all of these questions, I would give you 1 mark for the correct equation, half mark for the numbers, and a half mark for the answer. I think almost all of you are at the stage where you can figure out which equation from the green sheet. If you write that down, I give you a 0.5. In other words, this is one test. You shouldn't be leaving any written questions blank. I want to ignore Annie, but I can't. What? Did you get the right? I said I would have to take it because I didn't say, tell me the displacement. What did I say? How what? That's vague. You would argue with me and say, Mr. Dueck, you didn't say displacement. In fact, technically, height is a scalar. You could argue that you shouldn't put the negative, but I haven't taught you that much physics yet. What is the impact velocity? Not 0. In fact, you know what? I think this is asking me to find VF. I could have rewritten everything, but I think we're still at the bottom of the cliff, just like in part A. So, Dina, I just looked up here and I said, you know, I'm pretty sure, Lean, I think it's VF equals VI plus AT would get you there. You could also have used the D. I would avoid it if I could, because if I got part A wrong and I use it, then I'm getting part B wrong. But there will be at least one question on your test. Well, I will force you to use an answer to find an answer. I contrived it that way on purpose. Can't do part B without part A. It's going to be, oh, you know what? I didn't even need to write the VI, did I? I could have just written VF equals AT. So it's going to be negative 9.8 times 18.5. I'm going to get a negative answer. Should that scare me or should that make me relaxed, Davin? Why am I relaxed with getting a negative V final? No, that'd be for acceleration, slowing down. This is a V. What direction are we traveling when we hit the ground? Be Captain Obvious. And we've decided to let down be. I'm looking for a word that starts with the letter N. Yet down is negative in our frame of reference. Is it a negative 181.3? Yes. If you added the 0.3, that's fine. I'm just going to go negative 181 meters per second. If you're missing units or you have wrong units, I take a half mark off. If you're not sure, I can't remember the units. You should start maybe making flashcards now. But on the test, if you blank, go look somewhere else. I guarantee I used the word acceleration with the correct units or the word velocity with the correct units. Go throughout the rest of the test, find the correct units. One of the last things you want to do before you hand this test in is a units check. And really for the rest of the year for all of my tests, before you hand them in, last thing, make sure all your written questions, all your written answers have units next to them. I'm not fussy if you don't put the units along the way. Final answer, got to have units. Otherwise, I'll give you an application to go work for Verizon, right? What is the velocity? You know what? This is the same question as part B, except time has changed. So now I'm going to relist my data. VI is still 0, A is still negative 9.8, but T is 3.4. It's going to be VF equals AT again. It's going to be negative 9.8 times 3.4. In fact, I think if I'm clever on my calculator, I can just backspace and change the 18.5 to a 3.4 and save myself some typing. If you haven't learned, most of your calculators will let you bring back the previous line or even more than that. Several lines ago. That's really handy to have in your back pocket. Y'all get negative 33.3. Why negative? After 3.4 seconds, which way is it traveling? Up or down? Down. So I'm good with that. Same as before, 1 mark for the equation, half mark for the numbers, half mark for the answer. How far? Ooh, now it wants me to find the displacement. I think VI is still 0. I think A is still negative 9.8. But this time, T is 6. Cody, I caught you mid-yawn. Which equation did you use for part D here? Oh, you even didn't bother reading the the VIT? I agree. 0.5 AT squared, or I write it as AT squared over 2, same diff. I totally agree. It's going to be negative 9.8. times 6, don't forget the squared, times 2. What's the negative telling me? After 6 seconds, am I above or below from where I started? Below. When could I be above? I think there's a question later on where we throw something. Okay, then you can be above. And if you're on a cliff, you could be above or you could be below. It's possible to get both depending on how much time has elapsed. Negative 176. Again, if you added the 0.4, I'm fine with that. Meters. Next page over. Ball is thrown straight up with a velocity of 56 meters per second. Okay, it wants me to find time. VI is 56. It's in free fall, even on the way up. It's accelerating downwards because it's slowing down. Ooh, that's only 2 things. I need 3 things. What else do I know? Okay. The only time the velocity is zero is when you drop it, VI is zero, or when you're at the top, which I guess you are technically when you're dropping it, you are at the top automatically. V is zero at the top of an object's flight, never at the bottom. One of my pet peeves is when somebody says, well, when I hit the ground, wasn't VF zero? You'll always hear me immediately fire back, well, would you mind doing a belly flop off of your desk onto the concrete? If it's zero, it won't hurt. Will it hurt to do a belly flop? It's not zero. At the top, though, it is. Okay, keep going, Angus. Which equation? Yeah. Get the t by itself, please. Yeah, it is VF equals VI plus AT. T equals, is it VF minus VI over A? Okay, so I'm okay if you skip writing down that first step. If you're not sure, write down the first equation. I'll give you a 0.5 if you're not sure. But I'm pushing you to get comfortable enough to say, okay, I'm pretty comfortable rewriting these in my head. And I think most of you are. Not all of you, but most of you. 0 minus 56 divided by negative 9.8. By the way, time, always positive. If you get a negative time, you've messed up. Because time is a scalar. Did you get 5.71 seconds and change? Is that okay, Jackson? Yeah. What's the maximum height? When I say the word height, which of the 5 physics things am I referring to? Velocity? And I think we're going to find a displacement. I'm above. I better get a positive answer. If I don't, I've made a mistake. I'm going to go D equals question mark. VI, you know what? I think since we're at the top in both of these, I can use the same stuff here. I could use time. I'll show you what I would do. I would use VF squared equals VI squared plus 2AD. I would get the D by itself. The VF squared would drop down like a domino. There would be a minus VI squared all over 2A. I would get 0 squared minus 56 squared all over 2 times negative 9.8. Oh, wow. That's a fluke. Does it work out evenly to 160 even? Don't count on that. I don't care enough about you to spend my time trying to make these work out nice, especially that 9.8 just isn't a nice number to work with. Usually that's a fluke. 160 meters. Now, if this was a test and I had finished, but I had 10 minutes to kill, I would go back and I would go D equals VIT plus a half AT squared. I would use my answer from part A. So I would go, okay, VI was 56. Part A, I got T was 5.71 plus 0.5 times negative 9.8 times 5.71 squared. And I would see if I got the same answer. Did I? How come it's 159.99991, not exactly 160? No shrugging. We can figure that out. Why? Yeah. I rounded that. That's a rounded off. If I had used code 5.7142856 or used my answer button from the previous question, then I would have got exactly 160. But the fact that I got the same answer, or really close both times, it means they both must be right using both methods. So this is one of those tests. If there's a part B or a part C, you'll often have 2 or 3 different ways to find that answer. Use one of your earlier answers as a check to see if you got the earlier answer correct as well. Ooh, I pointed this out to a few of you. Some of you need to become better test writers. Jordan, how many marks is 2A worth? How many marks is 2A worth? Yeah? How many marks is part B worth? How many marks is part C worth? That's a hint that you probably already know the answer, or at most need to type one thing into your calculator. What is VF? Well, Brandon, what goes up must come. Because we're not on a cliff, if we left the ground at 56 meters per second, we're going to hit the ground at negative 56 meters per second. That doesn't work on a cliff, but it does work when you're on the ground. By the way, if you've ever thrown something straight up into the air when you're playing catch, if we ignore air resistance, which we are, it's going to hit your hand exactly the same speed as it left your hand. There's a couple of ways to calculate it. What did you do? What did you use for T? 5.71 times 2? That'll get you there because you didn't use the 5.714285 times 2. You're going to be off by a tiny bit. I would live with your answer, but I would also roll my eyes at you and say, you know, you could have just gone, let's come down and your head done, walk away. Just saying. Okay? But I would give you credit for that. Really, what you've done is you proved that what goes up must come. Oh, Davin, how many marks is part D worth? That probably means you have to type something on your calculator. And yeah, to do part D, I would go T, I'll call it T total. It's going to be 5.71 times 2. I have a calculator that lets me bring back several lines. So what I would probably do is actually go boom, boom. I would go back to that value. I can actually bring back the 5.71, blah, blah. So I can go answer button times 2. If you do that, you'll get 11.42. You all got 11.4, I think, even if you round it off. The other thing you could have done is you could have gone T equals VF minus VI over A, negative 56 minus 56 all over negative 9.8, bracket, negative 56 minus 56 divided by negative 9.8. Same answer. Okay. We are at a stage, especially if there's a part B or a part C, where you got multiple options. As long as you're getting the same answer as me, I'll probably give you credit for it. I usually choose either the laziest or the don't want to use an answer to find an answer on a test if I don't want to get it wrong accidentally method. Ooh, Lean, how many marks is part E worth? How high are we when we started? On the ground, so our height was what? As a number exactly. As a number exactly. Sesame Street is brought to you today by the number nothing. I don't think that's what they... how high are we when we finished? As a number exactly. So if we start at 0 and end at 0, what's our displacement? What would our distance be? 160 times 2. But if you're trying to use D in an equation, the displacement is what you would put in. Are we turning the page? Cool. Okay. Something dropped? We'll pause for a second because you're, well, no, you're all distracted. Okay. I'm going to call on people because you're getting tired. I know I've been talking for a while. So, Ashton, what's A asking me to find? How high? Which physics concept is it asking me to find? I'm going to be fussy. We're going to get a displacement, not a distance. In fact, I'm willing to bet we're going to get a negative answer because we are ending up below from where we started. What 2 words, Ashton, did I underline and bold font? Because, you know, if I underline and bold font something, that usually means I'm trying to get your hint. If you were clever, what would you change right now? Yeah, Annie, I would cross out that and make it a giant. Now I've got that taken care of. Straight down. Okay. I think there will be one question where I'll give you a straight down and I won't put the negative in front of the velocity. I'll expect you to catch it. And I'm sorry, Hannah, I might not bold font and underline it. I think it's fair game now that I think. So I can definitely write VI is negative 14. T, right? Ashton is 22. Ashton, that's 2 things. I need 3 things to find a fourth. Oh, yeah, negative 9.8, right? Which equation did you use, kiddo? Yep. And this time I do have to read the VI t because it's not 0. I got to get the d by, oh, bonus, it is. And technically these should have vector signs. I'm being a little casual, but I'm not going to be that fussy with you right now. It'll start to matter more later on this year. I can go straight to plugging and chugging. It's going to be negative 14 times 22 plus 0.5 times negative 9.8 times 22. The nice thing is, because this is a displacement and vector question, this takes care of the fact that, yeah, I know it went up for a while, but then it came back down. The equation took care of all that. It's just finding the displacement. I have no idea what the answer is here. Negative 14 times 22 plus 0.5 times negative 9.8 times 22. Don't forget the squared, Mr. Dueck. Do you get negative 2,680 if I round off to 3 sig figs? If you said negative 279.6, I'm okay with that. If you said negative 279, I'm taking a half mark off and saying we round off. We don't chop off. But I'm going to go to 3 sig figs. Negative 2,680 meters. Now again, Annie, did I say in part A, quote, find the displacement? What did I say? How, what? If you gave me it as a positive, I would have to accept that because I wasn't clear. B. Hannah, what's B asking me to find? Do you know what VF isn't? 0. I think we're at the bottom. I've scrolled down though, so I think I can still use VI was what, Mr. Dueck? Negative 14. A was still negative 9.8. Oh, and T is still 22. Hannah, which equation? Would use VF equals VI plus AT because the VF is by itself. I would also check my answer using VF squared equals VI squared plus 2AD, using my D answer from here to see if I got the same answer. Then I would smile and say I did both of them right. You might be able to get there by going D equals bracket VI plus VF times T close bracket divided by 2. I'd never do it that way, but you could. Yes. As long as you're getting it right, I won't mark it wrong. The risk you're taking is if you got A wrong, you're getting B wrong. And you're counting on me to catch that you've done it right with the wrong number and at least give you part marks. Negative 14 plus negative 9.8. Some predictions. Is the number I'm going to get, is it going to be bigger than negative 14 in the negative direction or smaller? It's going to be bigger. It's speeding up. So I know it's going to be further from 0 than negative 14. It's going to be like negative 30 or maybe something bigger than that. Negative 230? Is that right? Meters per second. Negative 229.6, I would give you full credit. Negative 229, I'd take a half mark off and I'd say learn to round off, not chop off. We are nearly done, which is good because Dina's on her 5th yawn. I don't know, it's called an attention span. Good thing I'm recording this on YouTube and I'm putting this online later, or you might be able to find from a neighbor. Oh, Lauren, look behind you. Look behind you. There's some attention span on the floor that might help yourself. Okay, here we go. YouTube's going, who is this Lauren human? I don't know. Ready? Coming at you. First of all, what's A asking me to find? Just read part A. Don't panic. What's it asking me to find? No. What's A asking me to find? Start right here. Yeah, you have a tendency to way overcomplicate this stuff. I got to nudge you out of that. I know. That's why I'm picking on you. What is it asking me to find? In terms of our physics concepts, is it, what's it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, good habit, you would do this. What does it say in brackets, Dina? Okay, that probably is a hint. How many marks is this worth? If it was worth 3 marks, you're probably going to find something in order to find something. That's a hint if it's ever worth 3 marks. It means you have to do an extra step. What else do I know? What's that 34? Now you're going to have to read the question to yourself and figure out what that 34 is. Yeah, what is it though? Go a couple of words in front of it. In front of the 34. A couple of words in front of the 34. It's VI. Oh, we're in free fall. What's the acceleration if we're in free fall exactly as a number? No, what's our acceleration exactly in free acceleration? The question doesn't tell you. I expect you to know this. Join your group. Thank you. I know you're tired. You'll get your adrenaline rush because I'll keep coming at you in love. Okay. So here is the first careful look up. D is not 252 because Brandon, as I told you earlier, this is a displacement. Always. Did we end up above or below from where we started if we launched from a cliff? So first careful is it's negative. Okay. Coming back to you, Dina, I have a VF, a VI, an A, and a D. Which equation? I don't know T. Good. But that's how I do this, by the way. I actually ask, what don't I know? I skip all those equations and I jump to the one that... Yes. VF squared equals VI squared. Dina, what has a question mark next to it? What do I want to find? By the way, you're starting to see why I say it's worth taking this 1 second to write that out, because you're doing so much complicated stuff. It's possible for... What? Make it obvious. Do yourself a solid, okay? VF, yes? Do I have the VF by itself? I have the VF squared by itself. How to get rid of a squared. You know this. What's the opposite of squaring? Help her out. Right? And so I said, I'm fine if you go like this to show your work. So we're going to get... Anderson, I'm coming at you for part B, so prepare yourself. 34 squared. What if instead of throwing it straight up, what if I had thrown it straight down? What would VI be? Negative 34, and because we're squaring it, you'd have to put it in brackets to catch that negative squared. We found that a couple of times, right? That's a hint. Plus 2 times negative 9.8 times negative 252. So I usually do what's inside the square root first. 34 squared plus 2 times negative 9.8 times negative 252. And then I usually go square root, answer button. Dina, I got 78.1. So the first careful was you had to catch the negative 252. Here is the second careful. The answer is not 78.1. This is that one time we have to overrule our calculator on the square root. We don't always overrule it. If it's on the way up, we're good with that. But we know we're on the way down, and so we have to overrule our calculator, Jordan, and say, no, I know it's negative. Your calculator always assumes you want the positive square root. There's always technically 2 square roots, right? Square root of 4 is 2 and negative 4. Square root of 9 is 3 and negative 3. We always forget about the negative, but in physics we have to take it into account. So here, if you missed the negative, I would give you 1.5 out of 2. Missed the units, use a half mark as well. Oh, sorry. I like number 4. I like number 4. Number 4 is a nice question. I really like number 4B. I really like number 4B. I really, really, really like number 4, letter B. It's a nice question. Anderson, what are they asking me to find in part B? Why is this so tough? Well, you might be tempted to say, can't I use D equals VIT plus a half AT squared? You can if you know how to solve a quadratic formula. I was showing somebody earlier today how to use their quadratic solver on their good calculator that they purchased based on my advice, and they were pleasantly surprised. Oh, look at, you mean to just plug and check? Yes. But most of you, or at least some of you, are in pre-calc this semester and haven't seen x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That just sounds like gibberish. I think all of you are in that unit right now, though, and within about a week and a half, that will actually make sense to you. Don't use that. What else do I know? I know VI. Anderson, what was VI? What was A? I know VF. This is the one time you're going to have to use an answer to find an answer. VF is negative 78. And I'm even going to put the 0, 7, and 2. I'll carry a few extra sig figs just so I'm a bit more accurate. Now I can find time without having to use the quadratic formula. Nathan, I'm looking for an equation that's got a T, a VI, an A, and a VF in it. There is one. Get the T by itself. Is that what you said? VF over, yep, negative 78.072. I'm going to use my answer button, actually, since it's sitting on my calculator. Minus 34 all over negative 9.8. This is a fraction. I have to put the top in brackets. How do I do negative 78? I go negative, and then my answer button. Ta-da! Minus 34, close bracket, divided by negative 9.8. And you get 11.4 seconds. And change. If you solve that using d equals VIT plus a half AT squared and the quadratic formula, and you got 11.4 seconds, I would absolutely give you 2 out of 2. Can you tough it through the next 2 questions? No? Okay, I guess quick like a bunny. Wait, before you go. I put 5 and 6 on the quiz. I'm not going to put 2 this tough on the test unless they're bonus. But I did want to assess you on them, so that's why I put them on the quiz here. Now you can. In fact, I think I also put them on the study guide just for practice because I wanted the study guide to be tougher than the test. Right? Whole goal, I think I've told you this before, homework should be the toughest, quiz is next toughest. By the time you get to the tests, I should have beaten you up enough that you should be going like, really? That was it? Okay. We did one like this in lesson 4. This was one we had to break into 2 parts. I guess it wants me to find a VF. From rest. Yeah, that makes sense. At the top of the slide, you sit down for a split second before you start. Right, little kid, you got to gather up your courage. Nobody sprints up the ladder and just belly flops over and keeps going. They start from rest. I think D is 4 on the slide, and I think T is 2.5 on the slide. Mara, which equation? Maya. Mara sits there in my other block. Maya, which equation? And you'll notice this one, I'm writing out the original version because this is tough enough that I'm not confident that I can just do it by staring at the green sheet. I am going to put a dot above the thing I'm trying to get by itself. What's going to drop down like a domino? Good. Then what? I do the brackets last because it's reverse bedmass. So I'll take care of the T. What's the T doing to the bracket? So what's the 2 doing to the bracket? So times. And then I have a minus VI. The minus VI isn't in the fraction because it was done after. It would be like this. The VI is not on top above the T next to it. Now in this case, because VI is 0, even if you did it wrong, it wouldn't make a difference. I like this question. Sorry. I told you this question wouldn't be on the test. I like this equation. I like this equation. I like this equation. This is a nice equation. You're going to get 2 times 4 divided by 2.5. I can do that in my head. 8 divided by 2.5. It's going to be the same as dividing by 4 and then timesing by 3.2 meters per second. Mr. Dueck, the child is going down. Shouldn't it be negative? If you decided to do that, I would give you full credit as long as you were consistent. What you would have done, by the way, is you would have also made the D negative because the kid is ending up below from where they started. They're not in free fall, it's slanty, so I decided to pretend the bottom of the slide was forwards. What's the child's acceleration and stopping? stopping, VF is 0. Oh, they gave me the stopping distance, 25 centimeters. Nice try, Mr. Dueck. 0.25 meters. I got a problem. That's only 2 things. I need 3 things to find the 4th. What? VF is 0. Oh, you're saying that the speed that I start stopping at is the same velocity that I start stopping at. Yeah, begin to stop at is the same velocity that I hit the ground at. Yes, that's the other aha moment. Which equation? Get the A by itself. A equals. Yep, yep, yep. 0 squared minus 3.2 squared all over 2 times 0.25. Zero squared minus 3.2 squared, close bracket, divided by bracket 2 times 0.25. Why did I get a negative answer? When this person hit the ground, did they speed up or slow down? Okay. Or if you had decided to let down be positive, you would get a positive answer because you're technically accelerating up when you hit the ground, technically. So I would take either as long as you were consistent. But I'm going to go, how many G's is that? How would I convert this to G's? Hint, hint. Yeah. There will be one question in your future where instead of saying find A, I say, how many G's? Find A, and then divide by 9.8. This is about 2 G's. Is the kid dead with 2 G's? No, you don't need to memorize this. I won't ask this on a test, but just for nerd trivia, who remembers what was breaking bones in G's usually around? Right around 10. There's a lot of variation. If you hit from the side, your bones are brittle. If you're hit from straight on, your bones are very strong. But around 10 G's, and usually around 25 is hasta la vista, right? Last one. Thank you very much for your patience. I know you've listened to me talk a lot. Tomorrow will be less talking. If you believe that. Okay. Annie, what's number 6 asking me to find? Yep. It is going to be a displacement. I should get a positive answer because I think the car is moving forwards. Horizontally, I let forwards be positive and backwards be negative. That works. What's that 15? Well, then what's VF? How do you know? Stops. Figure word. What's A? Nope. Why negative? Okay. I might do that to you once. And the reason I say I might, I have about 5 different versions of this test. The ones that I felt the other questions were easier, I snuck this in as a way to try and catch kids. The ones where I felt the other questions were tougher, I put the negative in front of the A. It depends. There's some variation, okay? Keep going, Annie. Oh, is this where I have to separate the question into 2? So this isn't the way I want to start. You're telling me I have to break this in half? Oh, how do I break it in half? I think we broke it in half with, I called it coasting. Yeah? And I called it stopping. So I can't just make a list here. What's my hint that I can't just make a list here? It's really tricky. There isn't anything obvious except I have to realize that this is a complicated question and I did it with you. So we're going to find the distance we travel while coasting. We're going to find the distance we travel while braking. And then we're going to add them together. So I think the VI equals 15 goes there. I think the T equals 0.5 goes there. Okay. So A equals -8 goes here. VF equals 0 goes here. Hey, this is nice. I have three things. I can find a fourth over here on the left. In fact, this is really nice. I think it's going to be D equals VIT. What happened to the plus a half AT squared? 0. In fact, remember the distracted driving, yelling at each other? That's the equation we use because I hadn't taught you about acceleration yet. All I could use was D equals VT. I didn't even call it VI because you went, what's the difference? Okay. So it's going to be 15 times 0.5. The distance while coasting is 7.5 meters, yes? Keep going, Annie. I only have two things. I can't solve this. Oh, because we're coasting, when we hit the brakes, we're still traveling at 15? Okay. So, yeah, go ahead. What was it? D equals VF squared minus VI squared all over 2A. In your homework, if you go straight to the numbers, I'm good with that. On a quiz or a test, just in case you make a typo, well, first of all, show me your numbers on it. If you skip this and go to the numbers, I'm okay with that. That way, if you make a typo, I know you had all the right numbers. I'll give you 1.5 out of 2. It's when kids write this, don't write the numbers and just write an answer. It costs them 1 mark instead of a half because I don't know what they did. Okay, it's going to be 0 squared minus 15 squared all over 2 times -8. This is a fraction, brackets around the top, 0 squared minus 15 squared, close bracket. -8 point, Mr. Dueck? -8. Is that right? Did I make a type? No. You get 14.06 and change? Not my final answer, so I won't round off yet. This is the distance while braking. Final answer, D total. What am I going to do, Annie? Good. So plus 7.5, 21.6. How many marks was this worth? You can see it was multi-step. I would probably do something like this. I would give you 1 mark if I saw that, half mark for the numbers, half mark for the answer. I would give you 1 mark if I saw that, half mark for that answer, and then a half mark for adding them up. There's your 4. Okay. Can you give yourself a score at the top of the quiz if you finished the quiz? Brandon, you're not staring at your phone yet. Out of 32. If you want to hang on to this, do your corrections and hand it in a couple of days or the same day as the test, I'm okay with that. Just don't forget. Otherwise, if you want to pass them inwards, if you're okay with how you did, fine. But I suspect some of you want to hang on to it and do your corrections. I'm okay with